I'm super excited about this one. One, because it's not me up here talking for 45 minutes, but two, because we're going to bring up a panel of consumers and have them tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong as an industry, and how they feel about digital advertising in general. We thought it was really important at Adobe to get some insight and perform some research across a broad swath of our population to really understand their varying perceptions of digital advertising. And what we did was we approached it generationally with our research partner at Venus, and we surveyed 4,000 people. But we took 1,000 people from each generation. So we've got 1,000 people from Gen Z, and Millennials, and Gen X, and Boomers, and asked them all the same questions. And then, of course, we were able to compare their responses and gain insights across generations. And lots of interesting things came out, which the panel is going to dive into. But I'll just leave you with a few nuggets that I thought were interesting. First one. Nearly 2/3 of Gen Z either unaware or generally uninterested or don't believe that their data is at risk or being breached. You know, I think given how much prominence in the news all of these ongoing data breaches are having, this is a little surprising. Maybe it evolves as they, sort of, I don't know what the word is, mature, but get older like all of us and realize we have some reason to care about our personal data. Or maybe this is just the new norm. Maybe we're all sort of becoming a little desensitized to how our data is used, where our data is or is not out there in the ether. But I thought this was quite a large number to feel this way. Next up, we have a lot of things happening in TV in terms of connected and advanced and OTT and addressable, and what we're doing with data-driven on linear TV. But this takeaway was, in general, people feel more trustworthy to the TV manufacturer or the TV broadcaster in terms of how they're using their data versus digital or print. And maybe this is a holdover from TV feeling a little bit more disconnected as a medium versus your typical digital ad. But I think this is interesting, especially as data becomes more prominent in those different TV types. And finally, big number, especially for those who are using audio or those audio publishers in the crowd, 42% of Gen Z and Millennials more likely or have bought a product after hearing an audio ad. I think we all know about the fragmentation across all these different channels and where we all spend our time. Audio has, been, I think, a rising, emerging channel that is now getting its due, so it's exciting to see that happening. So that's the little set of teasers I have for you. Lots more information is going to come out in the panel. The panel is hosted by Tanya Dua, our senior advertising reporter from Business Insider, and she's got a fantastic set of panelists that are going to go through the research with all of you, and I'm super excited to see it.
All right, thanks so much everyone for being here. Before we kick it off, since we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the first digital ad, I'd like to point out that everyone sitting here is a multiple of 25. So we have two 25-year-olds, a 50-year-old, and a 75-year-old. I'm like somewhere in the middle. But before we sort of get into sort of more pointed questions, you saw some of the stats up there. Anyone want to weigh in on something they strongly nodded their head, saying yes to, or thought it was completely off? Like one of those stats. Maybe Grace, did you agree with not caring about your privacy at all?
Yeah. I guess it sounds really naive, but I think it feels like to participate in the world right now, you have to give up some part of your privacy to do so. And there's like a level of connectedness to other people that requires you to give up some sort of information. Now, whether that is right or wrong, I don't know how I feel about that, but I definitely do feel like I probably don't care as much about my personal information as my mother would want me to, so.
Anyone else thought the stat was super, stood out to you for some reason?
Well, I would like to carry on from Grace's comment in that you have to give up now some things to get something. But for the organization or companies that figure out how to protect my privacy and come more from my perspective rather than the product perspective. I think there's a huge opening that is developing right now for that kind of product.
So we'll get back to privacy a little later because obviously it's a hot topic and everyone's really interested about it and everyone has varying views. But before we get all serious, the one question I'd like to throw to you guys is, do you think advertising influences you and your lifestyle decisions, or is it the other way around, that advertising follows what everyone is doing generationally? Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
I used to think that I would be a lot more influenced by advertising, but now at my age, in the age of social media and smartphones, I will think about something and it pops up on my phone. I will discuss it with my family or friends, and whether I'm on Facebook or Google or whatnot, suddenly I have an ad that's targeting something that I've been speaking about or thinking about, so now I think it's the other way around.
What about you?
For me, I think because of my age, I don't think I'm as much of a consumer as I used to be. So there are times when I'll go on the internet to look for things that I'm specifically interested, but I usually end up buying things like in a real store. I don't really shop online, but I do the research on there.
And once you do the research, do you see that, let's say you're searching for comfortable walking shoes, would you then be targeted with things that are similar?
Yes, how about bathtubs? We're doing our bathroom, redoing it, and it's like they keep popping up everywhere, bathtubs, yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys see a difference between, let's say, 100-year-old kind of legacy brands that you've known for a long time that have sort of been a part of, popular culture? I'm just throwing random examples out there, but Coca-Cola or, something along those lines, and newer brands. Do you kind of see a difference? And in terms of the difference, do you associate with them differently? And by that I mean, what do you feel strongly about versus, okay, I'm looking for something functional, so I'm just going to go ahead with the best or cheapest option?
Yeah, in terms of brands that have been there for a long time, for example, Coca-Cola. I don't drink soda, but the very few times I do, I'd reach for a Coke as opposed to something like grape soda, just because I know the name, and I'm just like, well, everyone I know drinks Coke, and I don't know anyone that drinks grape soda, so I'm not gonna even try grape soda. Or things like with the clothes I buy, Old Navy's been around since I was born, and I'm gonna shop at Old Navy as opposed to some pop-up that just opened up in the mall.
I'm the opposite. I'm so drawn to those ads that are minimalistic and really clean, and these new pop-up boutiques or companies, because in my head I'm like, oh, no one else has this, even though everybody else does. So I find myself not paying attention to those older companies. I don't even, and maybe it's because it's so ingrained and it's always been there since we've grown up, but I don't notice some of those older advertisements.
This reminds me of an anecdote of this one sweater that was particularly popular on Instagram, and then 4 people in my office had it in the next week. And so you think it's unique and tailored to you, but they're sort of broadly targeting your sort of generation, or 18 to 32-year-olds living in urban cities. But I guess what I meant by that question was, there's brands that are established, and then there's newer brands with a lot of cult following that people, especially on the younger end of the spectrum, think understand them better, or they can relate to more. I'm talking about you know, functional essential stuff like Warby Parker or Glossier. You know, among you folks, you know, do you even care about those brands? And, you know, Grace and Alexandria, do you think you have a stronger affinity for them? And what about, you know, you as well, Miriam?
I tend towards more established brands from my teenhood and my 20s, but then I think, I wonder what my kids think. And then I rely on my 15-year-old to tell me whether or not I'm old or whether or not I'm hip. So, you know, I was looking at glasses and my teenager was like, well, what about Warby Parker? And then I had to do research because I don't know about Warby Parker. It's not something I grew up with. And I always thought maybe I was cool, but I don't really think I am because I now have to research. So, I mean, but I do find myself very susceptible to ads like Glossier and Warby Parker or Zenni Optical, but it takes a lot longer for me to trust those companies than the ones that I've grown up with.
I think just sitting here reflecting on what I've just heard, I realize that as you get older, your world in a certain way narrows. And I have no clue as to what the current fashions or pop music, or I've probably missed several generations of music and things like that. So that in terms of like Coca-Cola, I'd say it's more a habit at this point in life that, you know, I'm probably not going to change that for anything.
I think that that's true for me as well. And, but I am aware that a lot of the young people are drinking LaCroix, and so sometimes, you know, I'll get a case of that because I know it's better for me. But, you know, it's hard to give up that habit. You know, if you've been drinking Coke all these years, as bad as it is for you. So, yeah.
Have you tried LaCroix?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we go to Costco and buy a case of it. And
It tastes like disappointment.
So it's
Just true.
So it sounds like it's a mix. You're still, you know, going to Costco, and I'm assuming you have membership there.
oh, yeah.
And then you're buying LaCroix. Quite, you know, the coming together of two worlds. But it's interesting as well. You know, I hear of a lot of millennials as well getting Costco memberships now. It's like, you know, when you're dating someone and it becomes official, you get a Costco membership. Is that?
Oh, I don't think that's accurate.
Is that something you've noticed among your friend circles, Grace and Alexandria? Sort of like, you know, going back to things that were, you know, hip and popular maybe 20, 25 years ago and are sort of making a comeback because, you know, they're nostalgic and hip and cool again.
We have, some of my friends have Costco memberships because you can apparently get a 27-pound bag of macaroni and cheese that never expires, and who doesn't love mac and cheese? But my mom has a Costco membership, so I won't be getting one because I don't need one. But yeah, Costco's great. You can buy everything. Like, why can't you find at Costco?
I think there's definitely, though, this shift that you're talking about, and maybe it goes back to that habit. Like I think in our generation are constantly looking for solutions to problems that we have, and all of these new products coming out offer these different solutions. And when we find that those solutions don't work, like I recently bought a shampoo that was like tailored to my hair, and I loved that, right? That I got to choose that. And I had an allergic reaction, and I was like, I'm gonna go back to Tresemme, because that's what my mother used. And it, you know, like, so I think there's kind of this flower effect. Like you come back to these products that you trust again after you go out and try these new ones, at least in our generation.
Yeah.
Right. So this is more for, you know, Bill, Marcin, Damien. Do you think sort of advertising has evolved in your lifetime? How were you targeted when you were, you know, Grace or Alexandria's age? And how do you think that's changed? Has it become more intrusive as it's become more targeted? Do you think it's become better, worse?
Well, I think it's become more intrusive and more effective, but at the same time, it's. I mean, there are good things about it and bad. You generally get to see the things you want to buy or might be interested in buying but you get exposed to a lot of dreck as well. And but you, as a sophisticated consumer, you're supposed to sift between those, and the internet makes it easier to do that. You know, if you're not too susceptible to the buying cues that are kind of thrown at you all the time, and you get used to that. You know, once you understand what advertising is about, how they're trying to push your buttons, and then you can either filter them out or kind of go with it. And for example, if you're looking at cars, it's like, I like to go fast, right? So, you know, you look at, you'll generally see things like Porsche or Mercedes that cater to your wishes or whims. And so it's, I know what they're trying to sell me, you know, but they're trying to sell me an image of myself that can never be, but you know, being human, you know, you fall for it. And so, and that's, you know, what it's good at. It's not really much different than, say, a magazine ad. It's just that there's more of them and they're coming at you faster. And there's a lot of really sophisticated minds putting it together. And I admire that in a way. Look what Adobe's doing. They're trying to figure out how it is that this happens and capitalize it. That's business. You know? And I don't mind. You know, it's okay.
I have kind of a love-hate relationship with it.
Don't we all?
When I'm looking for something, then I appreciate the ads that are showing up in various places. But when they get it wrong, when I just happen to be curious about something, and then these things come up, I don't appreciate it at all. And I think when you cross the 75-year point, time has a different value to me. And somebody that wastes my time showing me something that I don't need or I don't want, I don't like. And that's becoming increasingly important to me.
What sort of advertising would you say pushes your buttons, as you said, Damien? Is it something that sort of tugs at your heartstrings and is emotional? Is it something that, as you said, Bill, you want something that you need, so it's something that sort of is functional? Is it a mix of both? You know, I'd love to hear from all of you on this. What sort of advertising works for you?
I find that something that feeds my addictions, and I don't mean in the drug way. I'm very bougie and addicted to makeup and handbags, and I think that comes from, you know, my history working at Allure. But those are the things that really drive me. I will delete 50 emails a day because I don't really care about my targeted emails. But if I see a pop-up ad, if I see an ad scrolling Facebook or an ad scrolling Google or whatnot, it tends to be far more targeted to me. Even if I get something from Sephora on my email, I'll delete it. But if I get a targeted ad about some brand new lipstick, I'm more likely to click the ad and delete the email.
Anyone else? What sort of ads work for you?
I like the ads. I like some of the email ads because, like, I signed up for Sephora. I'm a Sephora insider, or I'm an Adidas creator. So those ads I like because they're places where I already shop, you know. So recently I just bought a bunch of tennis shoes. Now, I usually buy the Adidas EQTs because they're super comfortable. But I got a coupon for some other shoes, like a different style, and it's like, yeah, I'll try them out. So that's the type of stuff I like when the whole AI system knows what I like. The ones I don't like are, like Bill said, when he's just browsing for something or like wondering, hey, what is this brand or what are these types of pants called? And it's like, now I get those ads and it's like, I don't want that, you know?
All right, so we're going to talk about privacy now, but before I do that, I want to remind everyone that if you have questions for the panel, we're going to denote the last 10 minutes to do that. So go on the Slido option in your Advertising Week app and put in your questions. Thanks. So you guys talked about how, you're searching for something and an ad will pop up and it's like, wait, did I search for this? Did I not even do that? Was I just thinking about it, talking about it? Do you think advertising has become creepier as it's become more targeted? And, the first time that something like this happened to you, what was your reaction?
I think it's kind of creepy sometimes. I mean, I'm grateful for it sometimes, but at the same time, I find it very invasive. I know a lot of people in my generation, we will think, oh, Alexa sounds like a great idea, and then we unplug it. Because the truth is, I don't want people listening to me, and yet I have my iPhone and my iPad, and I'm grateful that I can say, hey Siri, where's the nearest ramen restaurant to where I am now? But finding that those ads, I mean, there will be times when I will be having a conversation in another room, and suddenly it pops up, and I find that to be very uncomfortable. It seems very invasive, and it feels to me like there really is no true privacy anymore. I have friends who will cover their cameras on their phones because they don't want ads popping up. They don't want AI listening, and I'm not to that extent necessarily, but it does feel very intrusive.
So Grace, you talked about how it's almost sort of like an exchange now. You understand that for advertising to be able to cater to you and your needs, you're sort of, there's this implicit agreement that, okay, you may have my data and use it. Would you say all of you realize that? And if you do, are you fine with that? Would you say you have a sense of just how much data and how many data points a certain company could have about you? And are you comfortable with that?
I mean, I absolutely don't know how much they know about all of my data. I have no idea. I just assume everyone's listening all the time. So.
Yeah, I try not to think about it, but I try to keep my presence as low as possible on social media and all of that. I just really have not embraced the digital technology at all. I mean, I do just the minimum. Like I have a phone a cell phone. I don't even know what my phone number is, and I tell people don't bother calling me and don't leave a message because I'm not going to retrieve it. I mean, I use it just in case I need it to make a phone call, and it's the same thing with the internet. I don't have a Facebook account or anything like that. I use his because I want to see pictures of my grandkids and stuff, and I do, get news from there as well. But other than that, I like to keep it as low as possible,
Well, there is a big brother aspect to it, and that disturbs me. And of course, advertisers feel that collecting that information is only in our best interest when we know it's not in our best interest at all. It's in the best interest of the companies advertising to us. And it's trying to shape our demands, our wants, perhaps more than we'd like to admit. And that's disturbing, that you're being manipulated. And of course, Madison Avenue has been doing that forever, but they're just getting better at it.
Right. Talking about that aspect, that's a concern. We just talked about GDPR in Europe, which is aimed at basically, protecting consumer privacy better. There's chatter of it happening in the U.S. The CCPA, rolls out in California early next year, and then there's some other states talking about it too. Do you feel like legislators understand just how complicated this landscape is to be able to serve your interests?
No, because I think the legislators are using the data that the advertising world and the marketing world offers them in order to target us with our own political belief systems. I find really political ads targeted to me only towards the political tendencies that I'm going to be thinking about. I don't see very many ads from the politicians or the legislators across the aisle from my own personal belief systems. So whether it's that they don't know or they simply choose not to care enough, because it is in their own best interests to use the data provided to them by marketing agencies, by advertising agencies. It will help them win elections.
So are you saying you're sort of in this echo chamber where someone knows that maybe you lean a certain way and then you get inundated with?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to that? Do you think regulation is the way to go? Do you think it'll help serve your interests?
I would like to, well, let me see. One, the politicians in general don't have a clue. And any clues that they do have are provided by the lobbyists that want them to look at it from a certain direction. So I'm quite concerned about what may come out of that. I see the companies having more and more of a social responsibility to look out for people, because once you lose trust, it's all gone, and then nasty things happen. And there is a creeping, I think, loss of trust going on with fake news and all the other things, that if we can't trust the media anymore, then I don't know what comes next. But one of the other points I'd like to make is that of all the people sitting in the room here, most of their job descriptions did not exist 25 years ago. And so being 75, I've kind of lived through a whole bunch of those cycles. And you've got to ask yourself, what will be the future job descriptions in 5 or 10 years? And as Andy Grove at Intel said, only the paranoid survive. And so it's important that you not have a nice self-comfort level, but have a little bit of fear of what's coming that I don't know is out there in the dark, because you never get destroyed by your competition. You always get destroyed by a new model.
It's interesting that you brought up the fact that you think companies today have a social responsibility. Having covered this industry and this space, I feel like there's way too much of that happening, and it's not always genuine. So, a pizza company will be like, we're a lifestyle company. Well, you're selling pizza. How are you contributing to a healthy lifestyle? Yeah. Do you think you are more likely to like a brand that has that component? And when is it genuine, when is it not? Like, what is the right balance?
Tom's shoes, for instance. I love the idea that for every pair of shoes purchased, they will donate a pair of shoes. And I think that's fantastic. But why don't they just donate money and donate shoes without me paying for a pair? And don't get me wrong, I own a pair of Tom's and I love them and they're very comfortable, but it took me years and years and years because they're expensive. And I don't mind paying it if they're going to donate, but I don't want to be the reason somebody is philanthropic. If a company wants to be philanthropic, then they should be philanthropic without my purchases. I understand that it is an economy and that they need money in order to continue on, but I don't want their philanthropy to be solely based on consumerism. And so, to some extent, it seems ingenuous.
Would you guys say you have very strong bullshit radars where you can see when something is genuine or not?
Yeah. I mean, like Tom's shoes, I think that just about generosity in general, I feel that when you see videos online about someone donating to someone in need and they're filming themselves, like I watched a video about a woman who took another woman to work, and she was an Uber driver, and her passenger was saying she doesn't have money. So later that day, she filmed herself going to the woman's job and giving her like a pair of slippers and like a gift card, right? Like I think that's a really nice thing if you want to do that, but don't film yourself doing it, because then it just becomes like, I'm only doing this good thing for likes, So when companies like Tom say, we're gonna donate shoes after you buy them, it's like, well, if no one bought your shoes, would you still donate shoes to kids in need, you know, or companies that say other things. Like I like Children's Hospital. They help kids in need no matter what. And it's like, you don't have to buy anything. Same with St. Jude's. You just donate. And then with your donations, they're able to cure lots of kids. And that's when I think, you know what, next time I go shopping and someone says, would you like to donate to St. Jude's? I'm going to say, yeah, I'll donate, because it's coming from a good place.
I think, though, that there's definitely this like facade of caring that we have entered into as people too, right?
Yes.
Like we get on social media, and right now there's on Facebook, probably all of you have the banner that says share that you're registered to vote too. It's like, okay, well, instead of doing that, you could go out and canvass and get people to register to vote. But I think there's an engagement that we're not actually prepared to do as companies and as people. We're not really prepared to do that step, even though we know socially what is right. And yeah, but I think we all participate in it too on social media, that facade.
Let's talk about sort of stereotypes in advertising, right? All of you are from different demographic cohorts as far as age is concerned. Do you feel that advertisers use certain, features as crutches? So whether it's, I'm going to target 18 to 32-year-olds and I assume they all like the same stuff, or I'm going to approach certain, diverse sets of the population a certain way, or I'm going to, people over the age of 75 are looking at this product, so I'm just going to inundate them with those ads. Do you guys feel annoyed by that? Do you think, as far as targeting based on demographics or diversity is concerned, there's a lot of stereotypes out there? Like, you're a mom with 2 teenage kids. Do you feel like you're kind of sick of that trope?
Ironically, I don't get targeted for being a mother with 2 teenage kids. I get silver singles ads, or yay, or I get AARP. It's almost as though they, yeah, that was a tough one, but they seem to pick and choose, because I do, and I'm a single mom. I've got 2 teenage boys, and that would be far more useful to me than, sorry, apologize, sound people. It would be far more useful to me because that truly is my life. I'm not worried about being a single mom dating in her 50s. I'm worried about being targeted for how to keep my children safe online and where to get help should they need it, or how can I find affordable clothes for 2 growing teenage boys. I never get targeted for that, and I wish any of you advertisers out there feel free to target me on that. But I find that it really demographic, as invasive as it can be, sometimes it's simply not targeted specifically enough, if that makes sense at all.
What about the diversity part, right? And by that I mean, not just different ethnicities. I also mean the LGBTQI spectrum. I feel like I've seen a lot of brands just sort of hire, people from those groups and almost, have them be talking heads. And again, that's not very genuine to me. What do you guys feel? How do you think, you can incorporate everyone, be very diverse, and not sort of peddle stereotypes?
I think 2 things. One, if you want to reach a certain demographic, such as millennials, you sort of have to speak our language, in order to reach them. But everyone's different, My mom can do the floss better than I can. My mom can do that dance that goes like this better than I can. Now, so everyone's different, but in terms of trying to reach the masses of a specific group, you sort of have to go general. And then with that generalization, you can then have that general ad. And I know it takes a lot of money and time, but create different ads that speak to, the baby boomer who feels like a millennial, or the Gen Z who feels like more like a baby boomer, because, people say, oh, I have such an old soul, you know? Like me, I love movies from the 1920s. I love Cary Grant. Now, if I were to get advertised to that, I would be like, awesome. But I'm pretty sure most people my age are like, Cary who? Like, why watch a black and white movie, you know? So I think you have to go general and then get more specific to try and reach people who are in a certain age demographic that don't like the same thing their age demographic likes.
So don't paint everyone with a broad brush, essentially, just because they happen to be fitting into a certain
You can paint with a broad brush, but then get like a smaller brush and keep painting smaller.
Miriam, do you have any thoughts on just how, you know, advertisers cater to different
So I have LGBTQ children, and I find that I do get advertising towards keeping them safe and healthy, and I quite like that because there are things along their journey, and as a mom of 2 LGBTQ children, it's a journey that I couldn't have anticipated. And because I participate in certain events and certain groups in order to make sure that my children are safe and that I can support them the best way possible, I am targeted very specifically towards some of those ads, and I am incredibly grateful. Never in my life would I have thought even for a moment that I would have a transgender child, but I do, and it's helping me help him along his journey to fulfill himself, and it's giving me information that I didn't necessarily know how to find. And it's helping me advocate for him and teach him how to advocate for himself.
Well, on that note, we have about 4 minutes. Do you guys want to answer some audience questions?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. So the first one is, I co-founded Hotwire and helped design the first digital ad. Looking back now, what do you think we could or should have done differently?
Wow. I mean, didn't somebody say you got a 40-some-odd% click rate?
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe keep doing that, but I honestly don't recall the ad, I'm sorry. So, but I think if you guys got that kind of a response rate, it should be used as a model.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say that was probably the high point of the industry. And when you talk in terms of like a 3 or 10% conversion rate or whatever, you're not thinking about the 90% that you didn't convert and you wasted their time. And I think that's where the problem's going to come from.
All right. How does everyone feel about event ads? What is your likelihood to attend the events that you see digital ads for?
Much greater. I find myself, I'm a musician and a singer and a voice teacher, and if I find an ad for concerts that are specifically targeted to what I enjoy or the kinds of students that I teach or the kinds of music that I sing, I have found myself going to far more events than I normally would have, things that I would not necessarily have considered attending before that piqued my interest from the advertising.
Same here. You know, I love art and wine festivals. I like concerts in the park. I like Shakespeare in the park, local plays. So if I see one of those, I'm just like, Mom, let's go. And she's like, yeah. So it's fun.
I like them. I think that it's one thing that maybe sometimes I think, oh yeah, we haven't done something like this in a long time. And so it kind of gets us out of the house. So yeah, I think that that's good.
I would agree. I use events. I use Facebook mainly for events and for creating my own and looking at what's out there.
Yeah.
So yeah. This is an interesting one. What is a common denominator that creates the transaction for all generations? Is it if the brand is a well-known brand, or what the ad copy is like, or the aesthetic?
I think it's a combination of whether or not it's a well-known brand and the copy, because I think, you know, there are ads that I've seen from the same brand who are clearly targeting specific demographics, and for me, if it's a well-known brand, I'm more likely to trust said brand. But if it's copy that targets me specifically in my own demographic, I'm more likely to purchase or attend whatever that copy is. And if it's, if it's geared towards millennials, I'm probably going to walk away. No offense.
I would say mine would be aesthetic, but my life feels like it's changing all the time, and so is my aesthetic. And so it feels like those brands change based on how millennials mostly are changing those aesthetics, right? Everything old is coming back again. Suddenly we're wearing bell bottoms again. So those aesthetics and scrunchies, but also minimalist. And so I am drawn to those really appealing looking advertisements.
All right, well, we have a couple of more seconds, but to wrap it up, I want you guys, all of you, to talk about one myth about you, one myth that you don't like advertisers using against you. Like they think you do this, but you're really not, you don't subscribe to that.
I really don't like CrossFit. And apparently everybody thinks that 50-year-olds love CrossFit.
I would say that I am unhappy being single. Hinge is killing me right now. It's just in my face all the time. I don't need it. I'm okay.
Well, two things. One, I don't wear heels. And two, I'm single, but I'm not looking. And I hate those ads that are like, find a mate, find a mate. And I'm just like, no.
It's like your mom, but it's an ad, right?
Oh boy. Let me pass to the, I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think maybe, I don't know, I like being my age, and
You don't want those creams and whatever.
you know what, I do, but, but it's not that big a deal. I have a cousin who's a judge, he's like 50 or something, and he was asking me about those pillows so you don't get wrinkles, and I had to, it's like, what are you talking about? I mean, I know what they are, but I mean, my goodness, that's going a little too far. And I told him, you just have to embrace it, just,
Well, I just like the ones that have, that assume that there's something really wrong with your brain when you reach a certain age, and you have to take a medication to, otherwise you're losing your memory, or maybe you ever forgot I told you that. But those bother me. Right.
So you don't need to be reminded.
No.
Well, I will give a specific example of one. It was when we got the first thing from AARP. And then you know you're old. And you've suddenly entered into a whole new world. So, but what are you going to do about that?
Well, awesome. I hope those are some really key takeaways. Do not target them based on that. I hope everyone enjoyed this discussion as much as I did. Thanks for being here.